The blood on the snow looked black in the fading light, and Amelia Kensington thought she might not live to see another sunrise as 6 men closed in around her with hunger in their eyes that had nothing to do with food. She had been traveling from Sacramento to her aunt's ranch near the Nevada border when the blizzard hit unexpectedly in the high Sierra Nevada mountains. The stagecoach driver had lost control when the horses spooked, sending the coach careening off the mountain pass. The driver broke his neck in the fall, and Amelia found herself alone, bruised and terrified, stumbling through knee-deep snow as the temperature plummeted. She had walked for what felt like hours, her fingers numb inside her gloves, her face stinging from the wind-driven ice crystals, when she heard the horses behind her. At first, she thought it was salvation. She turned, waving her arms, calling out for help. But when the 6 riders emerged from the white curtain of falling snow, something in their faces made her blood run cold. These were not good men. These were the kind of men who saw a woman alone in the wilderness and saw only opportunity. The leader, a man with a scar splitting his left eyebrow, grinned at her with teeth that looked like broken fence posts. "Well, well," he said, his voice carrying over the howl of the wind. "What do we have here? A little lost lamb all alone in the storm." Amelia backed away, her boots sinking into the snow. "Please," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I need help. My stagecoach crashed. The driver is dead. I need to get to safety." "Oh, we will keep you safe," another man said, this one with a patchy beard and eyes that would not meet hers directly. "Real safe." They dismounted, all 6 of them, forming a loose circle around her. Amelia looked for an escape route, but there was nowhere to run. The storm had disoriented her completely, and even if she could break through their circle, she would not make it far in the deep snow before they caught her. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought they might hear it. "My father is a wealthy man," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "If you help me, he will reward you generously, $500 each, maybe more." The scarred leader laughed, a sound like gravel in a tin can. $500, that is mighty generous, sweetheart. "But you see, we are not really in this for the money." He took another step toward her, and she could smell the whiskey on his breath even through the snow. "We have been riding hard for 3 days straight, running from the law up in Nevada. We are tired, cold, and in need of some entertainment. And you just wandered right into our path like a gift from God himself." Amelia's hand moved to the small pocket of her coat where she kept a derringer, a gift from her father when she turned 18 just 3 months ago. But before she could pull it free, one of the men grabbed her wrist, twisting it painfully until she cried out. Now," the scarred man said. "Let us not do anything foolish. This can go easy or it can go hard. The choice is yours." The world seemed to slow down. Amelia could see every detail with crystal clarity. The way the snow caught in the men's beards, the clouds of vapor from their breath, the cruel anticipation in their faces. She thought of her mother, dead these past 5 years from scarlet fever. She thought of her father, waiting for her to arrive safely at her aunt's ranch. She thought of all the things she had wanted to do with her life, all the dreams she had harbored in secret. And she thought that this was how it would end, alone and afraid in a snowstorm at the mercy of men who had none. Then she heard it, the thunder of hooves, moving fast despite the deep snow. The 6 men heard it too. They turned, hands moving to their guns, as a lone rider burst through the veil of falling snow. He was tall in the saddle, wearing a long duster coat that billowed behind him like dark wings. His hat was pulled low over his eyes, and a bandana covered the lower half of his face against the cold. But Amelia could see his eyes, and they were the color of steel. Everything happened in the space of a heartbeat. The rider's hand moved with a speed that seemed impossible, and suddenly there was a revolver in his grip, the metal catching what little light remained in the sky. 4 shots rang out in rapid succession, so close together they almost sounded like one continuous roar. 4 of the 6 men dropped before they could even clear leather. The scarred leader managed to get his gun halfway out of its holster before a bullet took him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him face first into the snow. The 6th man, the one with the patchy beard, froze with his hands held high. "Do not," the rider said, his voice low and steady. It was the first word he had spoken, and somehow it carried more weight than all the threats the 6 men had made combined. The man with the patchy beard nodded frantically, his face gone white as the snow around them. "I did not want no part of this anyway," he said, his voice shaking. "Brock made us come along, said it would be easy pickings on the mountain pass." The rider dismounted in one smooth motion, keeping his gun trained on the 2 survivors. He walked over to the scarred leader, who was groaning and clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers and staining the snow beneath him. With his boot, the rider kicked the man's gun away, then did the same with the weapons of the fallen men. "You have a choice," the rider said to the 2 who still lived. "You can ride out of here right now, leave your friends and your weapons, and count yourselves lucky to be breathing. Or you can try something stupid, and I will put you down like the rabid dogs you are." "We are going," the patchy bearded man said immediately. He moved to help the scarred leader to his feet, struggling under the man's weight. "Alone," the rider said. "He stays. He was the ringleader. He faces justice." The patchy bearded man looked torn for a moment, then survival instinct won out. He released the scarred leader, who collapsed back into the snow with a curse. "I am sorry, Brock," he said, but he was already moving toward his horse. The rider watched until the man disappeared into the storm, then he turned his attention to the scarred leader. "Can you ride?" he asked. "Go to hell," Brock spat. The rider shrugged, then pulled a length of rope from his saddle. He bound the man's hands despite his protests, then hauled him up and draped him over one of the horses. "You will hang for this," he said matter-of-factly. "Probably in Carson City, maybe in Sacramento, but that is for a judge to decide, not me." Only then did he turn to Amelia. She had been standing frozen, watching everything unfold with a mixture of shock and relief so profound she thought her knees might give out. Up close, she could see him better. He pulled the bandana down from his face, revealing a strong jaw covered in a few days' worth of stubble. He looked to be in his mid-20s, not much older than she was. His eyes, which she had thought were steel-colored, were actually a deep blue-gray, like the sky before a storm. "Are you hurt?" he asked, and his voice was gentler now, the hard edge gone. Amelia shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. Now that the immediate danger had passed, she was shaking uncontrollably, whether from cold or fear or both, she could not say. The rider seemed to understand. He shrugged out of his duster and draped it around her shoulders. It was warm from his body heat and smelled like leather and pine smoke and something else she could not quite identify. "My name is Isaac Knightley," he said. "I have a cabin about 2 miles from here. Can you ride?" She found her voice at last. "Yes, thank you. You saved my life." "Thank them," Isaac said, nodding toward the 4 bodies lying in the snow. They were too slow. It was not a boast, just a statement of fact, and somehow that made it more impressive. Amelia had grown up around men who talked big and accomplished little. This man did not need to talk. His actions spoke louder than any words could. Isaac gathered the reins of 2 horses, then helped Amelia mount one of them. His hands were strong but gentle as he lifted her into the saddle. He swung onto his own horse with practiced ease, keeping the rope attached to Brock's horse in one hand, and set off into the storm. The ride to the cabin felt like it took forever and no time at all. Amelia focused on following Isaac's horse, trusting him to know the way. The snow was falling harder now, and visibility was down to just a few feet. She had no idea how Isaac could navigate in this, but he seemed to know exactly where he was going. When the cabin finally emerged from the white darkness, Amelia could have wept with relief. It was small but sturdy, built from rough-hewn logs with a stone chimney that promised warmth. Isaac dismounted and helped her down, then dealt with the horses, putting them in a small stable attached to the side of the cabin. He left Brock tied to his horse, covered with a blanket but exposed to the elements. "He will freeze," Amelia said, though she felt no sympathy for the man who had meant to hurt her. "Maybe," Isaac said, "but probably not. Storm should pass by morning and we will head down to Winnetka then. It is the closest town, about 10 miles west of here. They have a sheriff who can hold him until the marshal comes through." Inside the cabin, Isaac quickly built up the fire in the stone hearth until it roared and crackled, filling the single room with blessed warmth. The cabin was sparse but clean. A bed in one corner, a table with 2 chairs, shelves lined with supplies, and a few personal items that spoke of a man who lived alone but was not slovenly. "Sit," Isaac said, pulling one of the chairs closer to the fire. "You need to warm up slowly, or you will shock your system." Amelia sank into the chair gratefully, holding her hands out toward the flames. Feeling began to return to her fingers in painful prickles. Isaac moved around the cabin with quiet efficiency, putting a kettle on to boil, laying out blankets, checking her over with a clinical eye for signs of frostbite. "You were lucky," he said after his examination. "Another hour out there and you would have lost fingers, maybe toes. As it is, you will be sore for a few days, but nothing permanent." "I was lucky you came along," Amelia said. "How did you happen to be out there? No one in their right mind would travel in a storm like this." Isaac poured hot water into 2 tin cups, adding some kind of herb that smelled sharp and medicinal. "I was tracking them," he said, nodding in the direction of the stable where Brock lay tied. "That gang robbed a bank in Virginia City 3 days ago, killed 2 people doing it. I am a bounty hunter. The marshal in Carson City hired me to bring them in." "You hunt men for money," Amelia said. "It was not a question." "I bring criminals to justice for money," Isaac corrected. "There is a difference. I only take bounties on men who have hurt others. Murderers, rapists, thieves. The kind of men who make the world a worse place just by being in it." He handed her one of the cups and she sipped it carefully. It was bitter but warming, spreading heat through her chest and belly. "Still," she said, "it must be a hard life." "Harder than some, easier than others," Isaac said. He sat in the other chair, cradling his own cup. "I grew up on a ranch in Wyoming. My father was a good man, but he was too trusting. When I was 15, a gang came through. They said they needed food and water. My father helped them, gave them everything they asked for. They thanked him by shooting him in the back and burning down our house. My mother and little sister were inside." Amelia drew in a sharp breath. "I am so sorry." "It was 11 years ago," Isaac said, though his eyes held old pain. "I tracked those men for 2 years. When I found them, I did what needed to be done. After that, I just kept going. Figured if I could stop men like that from hurting other families, then maybe what happened to mine would not be for nothing." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the fire crackle and the wind howl outside. Amelia studied him over the rim of her cup. He was handsome in a rough-hewn way, all hard angles and lean muscle, but it was his eyes that held her attention. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much darkness but had not let it consume him entirely. "What is your name?" Isaac asked eventually. "Amelia Kensington. I am from Sacramento. My father owns a shipping company there. I was traveling to my aunt's ranch near the Nevada border when the stagecoach crashed." She paused, then added, "I am 19. I know I look younger." A faint smile touched Isaac's lips. "I was not going to say anything. 19 is plenty old enough to travel alone, especially with a derringer in your pocket. You saw that. I see most things. It is how I stay alive." He stood and moved to the shelves, pulling down some dried meat and hardtack. "You should eat something. You have had a shock, and your body needs fuel." As they ate the simple meal, Amelia found herself watching Isaac with growing curiosity. He moved with the grace of someone completely comfortable in his own skin, every action purposeful and efficient. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. She thought about how fast he had been with his gun, how 4 men had died before they could even react. It should have frightened her, but instead, she felt safe for the first time since the stagecoach had crashed. "What will you do after you deliver that man to the sheriff?" she asked. Isaac shrugged. "Collect my bounty, find the next job. There is always someone who needs finding. Do you ever stop? Do you have a home anywhere, this cabin? I have a few places like it scattered around California and Nevada, places I can hole up when I need to. But no, I suppose I do not have what most people would call a home." He looked at her directly, and she felt the intensity of his gaze like a physical thing. "Why do you ask?" Amelia felt heat rise to her cheeks that had nothing to do with the fire. "I just wondered what it would be like. To always be moving, always hunting, never staying in one place long enough to put down roots." "It is lonely," Isaac admitted, "but it is also simple. No one depends on me. No one gets hurt because of me. After what happened to my family, I swore I would never put anyone in danger again." "That is no way to live," Amelia said softly. "You cannot protect everyone by staying alone. Maybe not, but I can damn well try." The storm continued through the night. Isaac insisted that Amelia take the bed while he made up a pallet near the fire. She protested, but he was immovable on the subject. "You have been through enough today," he said. "Get some rest." But rest did not come easily. Amelia lay in the narrow bed, wrapped in rough blankets that smelled like soap and sunshine, and stared at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those 6 men closing in on her, saw the hunger and cruelty in their faces. But then she saw Isaac, appearing like some avenging angel out of the storm, and she felt her heartbeat slow, her breathing steady. She turned on her side and looked across the cabin to where Isaac lay by the fire. He was not asleep either. He lay on his back with his hands behind his head, staring into the flames. "Isaac," she called softly, "thank you, not just for saving me, but for being kind about it." A lot of men would have expected something in return. He was quiet for a long moment. "Any man worth the name would have done the same," he finally said. "Get some sleep, Amelia. Tomorrow will be a long day." But even after his breathing evened out into the rhythm of sleep, Amelia lay awake, her mind churning. She thought about her life in Sacramento, the comfortable predictability of it. Her father wanted her to marry Henry Aldridge, the son of his business partner. Henry was fine enough, she supposed. He was polite and well-educated and would make a sensible husband. But he did not make her feel anything. Not the way she had felt when Isaac had looked at her with those storm-colored eyes. She was being foolish, she told herself. She had known the man for all of a few hours. He had saved her life, and she was confusing gratitude with something deeper. By tomorrow, they would reach Winnetka, and she would send a telegram to her father, and he would come fetch her or send someone to escort her safely to her aunt's ranch. She would probably never see Isaac Knightley again. The thought made her chest ache in a way she did not fully understand, Morning came with startling brightness. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world transformed into crystal and diamond. The sun reflected off the snow so brilliantly it hurt to look at directly. Isaac was already up, dressed, and moving around the cabin with his usual quiet efficiency. "How do you feel?" he asked when he noticed she was awake. "Sore," Amelia admitted, sitting up carefully, "but alive. That is what matters." He handed her a cup of something hot. Coffee, she realized after the first sip, strong and black. "We should leave within the hour. The snow is deep, but the horses can manage it. We should reach Winnetka by mid-afternoon." They ate a quick breakfast of leftover hardtack and some beans Isaac heated over the fire. Then they bundled up and headed outside. Brock was still alive, though he looked half-frozen and thoroughly miserable. Isaac checked his bonds, then got him situated upright in the saddle. The ride down the mountain was treacherous but beautiful. The sun turned the snow into a blanket of light, and the pine trees stood like dark sentinels, their branches heavy with white. Amelia found herself riding next to Isaac, their horses picking their way carefully down the steep trail. "Tell me about Sacramento," Isaac said at one point. "What is it like living in a city?" Amelia thought about it. "Busy," she said. "Noisy. There are always people everywhere, always something happening. The streets are paved and there are gas lights on every corner. We have theaters and restaurants and shops that sell things from all over the world." Sounds overwhelming. Sometimes it is, but it is also exciting. There is always something new to discover, always someone interesting to meet. She paused, then added, "Though I suppose it must seem very tame compared to your life." Isaac's mouth quirked. "Different, not tame." "I could not do what you do, live in a place like that. Too many people, too much noise. I would feel trapped." "And I suppose I should feel terrified out here in the wilderness," Amelia said. "But I do not. Even after yesterday, I feel more alive than I have in months." Isaac looked at her then, really looked at her, and something passed between them, some current of understanding that needed no words. Amelia felt her breath catch in her throat. "You are not what I expected," Isaac said quietly. "What did you expect?" "I do not know." "A pampered city girl, I suppose. Someone who would fall apart after what you went through, but you did not. You are stronger than you look." "I had a good teacher," Amelia said. "My mother before she died. She always said that strength is not about not being afraid. It is about doing what needs to be done even when you are terrified. Your mother was a wise woman." They reached Winnetka in the early afternoon, just as Isaac had predicted. It was a small town, just a few streets clustered around a main thoroughfare, but it had the essentials: a general store, a hotel, a saloon, and a sheriff's office. Isaac led them directly to the latter. The sheriff was a weathered man in his 50s with a gray beard and sharp eyes. He listened to Isaac's account of the events, examined Brock's wanted poster, and nodded slowly. "I heard about that Virginia City robbery," he said. "Nasty business. You said there were 6 of them. 4 dead up in the mountain pass. 1 rode off, and this one here," Isaac said, gesturing to Brock, who glared daggers at all of them. "I will send some men up to recover the bodies once the snow clears a bit more. In the meantime, I will lock this one up and wire the marshal." The sheriff looked at Amelia. "Miss, are you all right? Do you need a doctor?" "I am fine, thank you. But I need to send a telegram to my father in Sacramento. He will be worried sick when the stagecoach does not arrive as scheduled. Of course. The telegraph office is 2 doors down. Tell Martin I sent you, and he will take care of you." After Amelia sent her telegram, explaining briefly what had happened and assuring her father she was unharmed, she found Isaac waiting outside the sheriff's office. He had collected his bounty and was checking his horse's shoes. "What now?" she asked. Isaac straightened and looked at her. I suppose you will want to stay at the hotel until your father sends someone for you. I suppose so. Amelia hesitated, then plunged ahead. Will you stay too, at least for tonight? Something flickered in Isaac's eyes. I was planning to ride out. I have a lead on another bounty up near Carson City. You do not have to leave right away, do you? Could you not spare one night? Isaac studied her for a long moment, and Amelia held her breath. Finally, he nodded slowly. One night, he said. I suppose I owe myself that much. The hotel was small but clean, and the proprietor, a cheerful woman named Mrs. Chen, immediately took charge of Amelia. You poor dear, she clucked, hearing about the stagecoach accident. You must be exhausted. I will have a hot bath drawn up for you right away and some proper food. You look half-starved. Isaac got his own room down the hall, and they agreed to meet for dinner in the hotel's small dining room. Amelia luxuriated in the hot bath, washing away the grime and fear of the past day. Mrs. Chen had even provided her with a dress to wear, a simple but well-made garment in deep blue that brought out the color of her eyes. When Amelia came down to dinner that evening, she found Isaac already waiting. He had cleaned up as well, shaving and changing into a fresh shirt. He stood when he saw her, and his eyes widened almost imperceptibly. You look beautiful, he said, then seemed surprised that he had said it out loud. Thank you, Amelia said, feeling her cheeks warm. You clean up rather well yourself. They sat across from each other at a small table by the window, and Mrs. Chen brought them steaming plates of roast beef, potatoes, and vegetables. It was simple fare but delicious after their meager meals of the past day. This feels strange, Isaac said after a while. What does? This. Sitting in a nice restaurant, having a normal conversation with a beautiful woman. I have been on the trail for so long, I almost forget what civilized life feels like. Is it really so terrible? Amelia asked. Being around people, I mean. Isaac considered the question seriously. Not terrible. Just unfamiliar. When you spend most of your time alone, you get used to it. You start to think it is the only way you can be. And then someone comes along and reminds you of everything you have been missing, and it hurts in a way you did not expect. The rawness in his voice made Amelia's heart ache. You do not have to be alone, she said softly. You choose to be. Maybe. But like I said, it is safer this way, for everyone. Safer is not the same as better. They finished their meal in contemplative silence, but it was not uncomfortable. After dinner, they walked through the small town together, their breath misting in the cold night air. The stars were brilliant overhead, undimmed by city lights. I love this about the wilderness, Amelia said, looking up. In Sacramento, you can barely see the stars. There is too much light, too much smoke, but out here it is like someone scattered diamonds across black velvet. You really do not belong in a city, Isaac said. Maybe not. Or maybe I just never knew there was anything else. She stopped walking and turned to face him. Isaac, I have a confession to make. He looked wary. What? I do not want you to leave tomorrow. I know that is selfish of me. I know you have your own life, your own path. But I feel like we just met and I want more time. I want to know you better. Isaac was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. Amelia, you do not know what you are asking. Then tell me. I am not a good bet for any kind of future. I live on the road. I make my living hunting dangerous men. Any day could be my last. I have nothing to offer a woman like you. A woman like me, Amelia repeated. What does that mean? Educated, refined, from a good family, you could have any man you wanted. Why would you waste your time on someone like me? Because you make me feel alive, Amelia said simply. Because when I am with you, I feel like I am exactly where I am supposed to be. Because you are brave and good and you saved my life, yes, but more than that. You reminded me that there is more to life than just going through the motions, doing what is expected. She stepped closer to him, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. I know we barely know each other. I know this is crazy, but I have never been more certain of anything in my life. Isaac looked down at her, and in his eyes, she saw longing and fear and hope all tangled together. If I let myself care about you, he said slowly, and something happened to you because of me, I could not live with myself. And if you walk away right now and we never see each other again, will you be able to live with that? He reached up and cupped her face in his hands, his palms rough but gentle. You are making this very difficult, he murmured. Good, Amelia whispered. He kissed her then, soft and tentative at first, then deeper as she responded. It was like nothing Amelia had ever experienced before. Henry had kissed her once, a chaste peck on the lips that had left her feeling nothing. But this was entirely different. This was fire and ice and electricity all at once. This was coming home to a place she had never been. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. I cannot make you any promises, Isaac said. I do not know how to do this, how to let someone in. Then we will figure it out together, Amelia said. One day at a time. They walked back to the hotel hand in hand, and Isaac escorted her to her room. At the door, he kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. Get some rest, he said. We can talk more in the morning. But morning brought complications. Amelia came down to breakfast to find her father in the hotel lobby, travel-worn and frantic. He swept her into a fierce embrace the moment he saw her. Amelia, thank God, he said, his voice thick with emotion. When I got your telegram, I rode out immediately. Are you truly all right? Did those animals hurt you? I am fine, father, truly. A man named Isaac Knightley saved me. If not for him, I would be dead. Her father pulled back and looked at her carefully, his experienced eyes taking in every detail. And where is this man? I must thank him and reward him properly. He is here in the hotel. Father, there is something I need to tell you. But before she could continue, Isaac appeared at the top of the stairs. He had his saddlebags over his shoulder and was clearly preparing to leave. He stopped when he saw Amelia and her father. Mr. Kensington, I presume, he said, coming down the stairs. Your daughter is very brave. You should be proud. I am in your debt, sir, Amelia's father said, shaking Isaac's hand. If there is anything I can do to repay you, you need only name it. No need, Isaac said. His eyes flicked to Amelia, and she saw regret there and resignation. I was just doing my job. You are leaving? Amelia asked, unable to keep the hurt from her voice. It is for the best, Isaac said quietly. Your father is here now. You are safe. I have other business to attend to. Isaac, please. Her father looked between them, his expression sharpening. Amelia, is there something you want to tell me? Amelia's mind raced. She could let Isaac go, could return to Sacramento and her comfortable, predictable life. She could marry Henry Aldridge and become a respectable society wife. She could forget all about the man who had ridden out of a snowstorm and changed everything, or she could fight for what she wanted. Yes, she said, lifting her chin. Father, I am not going to marry Henry. Her father blinked. What? Amelia, we have discussed this. Henry is a fine match. Henry is boring, and I do not love him, and I will not marry him. She turned to Isaac, who was watching her with something like awe in his eyes. I know you are scared. I know you think you will hurt me somehow, but you are wrong. The only way you can hurt me is by walking away right now. Amelia, Isaac said, and his voice was rough. Your father is right there. I do not care. I am 19 years old and I get to choose my own life, and I choose you if you will have me. Her father made a strangled sound. Amelia Kensington, have you lost your mind? You cannot just run off with a man you barely know. Then I will get to know him, Amelia said. But I am not going back to Sacramento with you, not unless Isaac is coming too. Isaac set down his saddlebags with a thump. He crossed the lobby in 3 long strides and took Amelia's hands in his. "Are you absolutely sure?" he asked. "Because if we do this, there is no going back. Your life will never be the same." "I am counting on it," Amelia said. He kissed her then, right there in front of her father and Mrs. Chen and anyone else who happened to be watching. And Amelia kissed him back, pouring everything she felt into it, her certainty, her hope, her love. When they broke apart, her father was sputtering. "This is insane. I will not allow it." "With respect, sir," Isaac said, not looking away from Amelia. "Your daughter is an adult. She makes her own choices. But I can promise you this. I will protect her with my life. I will cherish her and honor her, and I will do everything in my power to make her happy." "You are a bounty hunter," her father said. "You live a violent, dangerous life. That is no life for my daughter." "Maybe not," Isaac agreed, "but that can change. I have saved up a fair amount over the years. Enough to buy a piece of land, maybe start a ranch. I always thought I would die on the trail, but now—" He looked at Amelia, and his eyes were full of wonder. "Now I am thinking I might want to live instead." Amelia's father looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and seemed to see something there that gave him pause. "You love him," he said, and it was not a question. "Yes," Amelia said simply. "I know it is fast. I know it seems crazy, but yes, I love him." Her father was quiet for a long time. Finally, he sighed, and the fight seemed to go out of him. "Your mother would have liked him," he admitted grudgingly. "She always said you had her spirit, her fire. I suppose I should have known you would not settle for someone safe and boring." He looked at Isaac. "If you hurt her, I will hunt you down myself." "If I hurt her, you will have to get in line behind me," Isaac said seriously. They worked out the details over the next few days. Amelia's father returned to Sacramento to handle the business of breaking off her unofficial engagement to Henry and packing up her belongings. Amelia stayed in Winnetka with Isaac, and they spent the time getting to know each other properly, without the urgency of danger hanging over them. They talked for hours, sharing their histories, their dreams, their fears. Amelia learned that Isaac loved to read when he had the chance, that he had a gift for tracking that bordered on uncanny, that he played the harmonica badly but enthusiastically. Isaac learned that Amelia could shoot better than most men if given the chance, that she had a sharp wit and a stubborn streak a mile wide, that she dreamed of traveling to places she had only read about in books. They rode out to look at properties, and on a clear, cold morning they found it. 200 acres of prime land nestled in a valley with a stream running through it and pine forests on 3 sides. There was already a small cabin on the property, bigger and sturdier than Isaac's mountain hideaway, and enough cleared land for crops and grazing. "We could build something here," Isaac said, standing in the middle of the property with his arm around Amelia's shoulders. "A real home. Maybe raise horses. I am good with horses." "It is perfect," Amelia said, leaning into him. "When can we start?" Isaac bought the land with money from his savings, and they spent the next month working on the cabin, expanding it, making it livable. Amelia's father sent her belongings, and to everyone's surprise, a generous financial gift to help them get started. He also sent a letter saying that while he did not fully approve of her choices, he respected them, and he would always be there if she needed him. They were married in the spring, a simple ceremony in Winnetka's small church with Mrs. Chen and the sheriff as witnesses. Amelia wore a dress her mother had worn at her own wedding, altered to fit. Isaac wore his best shirt and looked so nervous that Amelia had to squeeze his hand to steady him. "I do not deserve you," he whispered as they stood before the preacher. "Probably not," Amelia agreed with a smile. "But you are stuck with me now. Their life together was not easy, but it was good. They worked hard on the ranch, building it up from nothing. Isaac stopped taking bounties, though he occasionally helped the local sheriff when needed. Amelia threw herself into ranch life with the same determination she brought to everything else, learning to manage the books, train the horses, and keep the property running smoothly. They had their first fight 6 months after the wedding, a screaming argument about Isaac's tendency to take risks when dealing with horse thieves who had been plaguing the area. Amelia accused him of having a death wish, and he accused her of trying to change him. They both said things they did not mean, and Isaac stormed off to sleep in the barn. But by morning, they had found their way back to each other. Isaac apologized for being reckless, and Amelia apologized for trying to control him. They learned, slowly, how to navigate the difficult waters of sharing a life with someone else, how to compromise without losing themselves. "Marriage is hard," Amelia said one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Yes," Isaac agreed, "but the alternative is worse." Their first child came 2 years after their wedding, a boy with his father's blue-gray eyes and his mother's stubborn determination. They named him Thomas, after Isaac's father. Isaac held his son with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face. "I was so afraid," he admitted to Amelia as she lay in their bed, exhausted but happy. "Afraid that I would not know how to be a father, that I would fail him the way I failed my family." "You did not fail your family," Amelia said firmly. "What happened to them was not your fault. And you will be a wonderful father, I have no doubt about that." She was right. Isaac took to fatherhood with the same intensity he brought to everything else. He was patient and loving, teaching Thomas to ride and track and shoot. But he also taught him to read and think and question, to be kind and fair and just. 3 years later they had a daughter, Clara, who had Amelia's dark hair and fierce spirit. She kept them on their toes from the moment she could walk, always exploring, always asking questions. Isaac doted on her shamelessly. "You have gone soft," Amelia teased him one evening as she watched him playing tea party with Clara. "Maybe," Isaac admitted, looking up with a grin, "but I figure I earned it." As the years passed, their ranch prospered. They became known throughout the region for breeding quality horses, and people came from as far as Sacramento to buy from them. They built a bigger house, with proper bedrooms for the children and a library that Amelia filled with books. On their 10th anniversary, Isaac took Amelia back up into the mountains, to the cabin where they had spent that first night together. It was a difficult ride with the children, but Thomas was 8 and Clara was 5, and both were excellent riders. "Why did we come here?" Clara asked when they finally reached the small cabin, which was weathered but still standing. "Because this is where your mother saved my life," Isaac said. "I thought you saved Mother's life," Thomas said, confused. "I did that too, but your mother saved me in a different way. She reminded me that living is not the same as being alive. She gave me a reason to stop running, to build something instead of just tearing things down." He pulled Amelia close, kissing the top of her head. "Best decision I ever made was staying that extra night in Winnetka." "Second best," Amelia corrected. "The best was kissing me in that hotel lobby." "True," Isaac agreed with a laugh. They spent the night in the cabin, the 4 of them crowded together, telling stories and laughing. Thomas and Clara listened wide-eyed as their parents recounted the story of how they met, though they edited out the darker parts. The children did not need to know about the 6 men and the violence, not yet. There would be time for those harder truths later. For now, it was enough to be together, to be a family, to know that they had built something real and lasting from those desperate moments in a snowstorm. When they returned home, Amelia's father was waiting for them. He was older now, grayer, but still strong and vital. He had never remarried after Amelia's mother died, but he had found a kind of peace in his later years. He visited the ranch several times a year, bringing gifts for the children and advice for Isaac on the business side of ranching. "You have done well," he told Isaac that evening as they sat on the porch, watching the children play in the yard. "I admit, I had my doubts, but you have made my daughter happy and you have given her a good life. I could not ask for more than that." "She made me believe I deserved a good life," Isaac said. "That is a gift I can never repay." "Then do not try," Amelia's father said. "Just keep doing what you are doing. Keep loving her. Keep building your family. That is enough." Life continued its steady march forward. Thomas grew into a fine young man, thoughtful and brave. He eventually took over much of the day-to-day running of the ranch, showing a natural aptitude for the work. Clara proved to have her father's gift with horses, able to gentle even the wildest colt with patience and kindness. She also inherited her mother's sharp mind and went back east for 2 years to attend a women's college, though she returned to California with her degree and no desire to leave again. Isaac and Amelia grew older together, their hair turning gray, their bodies showing the wear of decades of hard work. But their love never diminished. If anything, it deepened, becoming something richer and more complex than that first wild rush of emotion in the snowstorm. On quiet evenings, they would sit together on their porch, holding hands and watching the sun set over their land. Sometimes they talked, sharing memories and dreams. Sometimes they simply sat in comfortable silence, content to be in each other's presence. "You ever regret it?" Isaac asked one such evening when he was 62 and Amelia was 58. "Giving up your comfortable life in Sacramento. You could have married someone wealthy, lived in a mansion, never worked a day in your life." Amelia laughed, the sound bright and clear despite her years. "And be bored out of my mind? Never. I chose adventure, I chose love, I chose you, and I would make the same choice every single time. Even knowing all the hardships, all the struggles, especially knowing those things. The struggles made us stronger. They made us appreciate what we have." She squeezed his hand. "I have lived a full life, Isaac. I have loved deeply. I have raised 2 wonderful children. I have built something meaningful with my own 2 hands. How many people can say that?" Isaac brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "I am the luckiest man alive," he said quietly. "Yes, you are," Amelia agreed with a smile. "But I am pretty lucky too." They watched as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. In the distance, they could hear Thomas calling his own children in for supper. The ranch that Isaac and Amelia had built was now home to 3 generations, a legacy that would continue long after they were gone. "We did good," Isaac said. "Yes," Amelia agreed, resting her head on his shoulder. "We did very good indeed." As darkness fell and stars began to emerge in the vast sky above, Isaac and Amelia nightly sat together on their porch, surrounded by the life they had built, the family they had created, and the love that had sustained them through everything. It had all started with a snowstorm, 6 desperate men, and a cowboy who chose to ride toward danger instead of away from it. But it had become so much more than that. It had become a life well lived, a love story for the ages, proof that even in the harsh wilderness of the Old West, tenderness and devotion could not just survive but thrive. Thomas eventually married a schoolteacher from Winnetka, a kind woman named Sarah who fit seamlessly into the family. They gave Isaac and Amelia 4 grandchildren, each one cherished and spoiled in equal measure. Clara married later in life, choosing a quiet man who worked as a veterinarian in Sacramento. They had twin boys who spent every summer on the ranch, learning the family trade. As Isaac and Amelia entered their 70s, they gradually stepped back from the daily operations of the ranch, content to let Thomas and his family take over. But they never truly retired. Isaac could still be found most mornings in the stables, checking on the horses and offering advice. Amelia spent her time tending an enormous garden and teaching her grandchildren to read. They celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary with a huge party. Friends and family came from all over California and Nevada, filling the ranch house and spilling out onto the grounds. There was music and dancing and enough food to feed an army. Isaac and Amelia stood in the center of it all, holding each other close as they swayed to an old song. 50 years, Amelia marveled. It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once. I would do it all again, Isaac said. Every moment, every challenge, every joy, all of it. Me too, Amelia whispered. The years continued to pass as they always do. Isaac's joints grew stiff, and he walked with a cane. Amelia's eyesight began to fail, though she refused to admit it and kept reading without her spectacles. They moved a bit slower, tired a bit easier, but their spirits remained strong. They were sitting on their porch one evening in late autumn, wrapped in blankets against the chill, when Amelia suddenly said, "Do you remember the exact moment you knew you loved me?" Isaac thought about it carefully. "It was the morning after the snowstorm," he said finally. "We were riding down to Winnetka, and you said something about feeling more alive in the wilderness than you ever had in the city. And I looked at you, with the sun in your hair and this light in your eyes, and I just knew. I knew you were going to change everything." "I did not mean to change everything," Amelia said with a small smile. "I know, but you did anyway. Best thing that ever happened to me." "And I knew I loved you when you kissed me outside the hotel," Amelia said. "When you finally let yourself be vulnerable, let yourself want something for yourself instead of just existing. That was when I knew for certain." They sat in silence for a while, remembering. The memories were so vivid, so real, even after all these years. Amelia could still feel the bite of the wind on her face, still see Isaac emerging from the snowstorm like something out of a dream. Isaac could still remember the fear in Amelia's eyes, and the courage that had come after, and the way she had looked at him like he was worth saving. "We had a good run," Isaac said softly. "We are not done yet," Amelia protested. "No," Isaac agreed. "But when we are, whenever that might be, I want you to know that loving you was the greatest privilege of my life." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "Do not talk like that. You are going to make me cry." "Then cry. I will not tell anyone." He pulled her closer, and they sat together as the sun set on another day, grateful for every moment they had been given, for every sunrise and sunset they had shared. Isaac passed away peacefully in his sleep 3 years later, at the age of 87. He went to bed one night holding Amelia's hand and simply did not wake up. The whole community mourned him, remembering him as a fair man, a good neighbor, a devoted husband and father. His funeral was attended by over 200 people, a testament to the life he had lived and the impact he had made. Amelia lived another 5 years without him, though her family worried that she would simply fade away from grief. But she was made of sterner stuff than that. She stayed active, stayed engaged with her family and community. She told stories about Isaac to anyone who would listen, keeping his memory alive. "He saved my life, you know," she would say to her great-grandchildren, who had heard the story dozens of times but never tired of it. "6 men were after me in a snowstorm. Your great-grandfather rode in and shot 4 before they could touch me. He was the bravest man I ever knew." "And the handsomest?" one of the children would always ask. "And the handsomest," Amelia would agree with a smile. When Amelia finally passed, quietly and without fanfare at the age of 92, She was laid to rest next to Isaac on a hill overlooking the ranch they had built together. Her headstone bore a simple inscription. She chose adventure and found love. The ranch continued to thrive under Thomas's management and eventually passed to his eldest son. The Knightley name became synonymous with quality horses and honest dealing throughout California. But more than that, the story of Isaac and Amelia became a family legend, passed down through the generations. A reminder that love could bloom even in the harshest conditions, that courage came in many forms, and that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. And on cold winter nights, when the snow fell in the mountains and the wind howled through the pines, some claimed they could still see two figures riding together through the storm, a man and a woman, their love enduring beyond death, beyond time, eternal as the mountains themselves. Their story had begun with violence and fear, with 6 men closing in and a lone cowboy riding to the rescue. But it had become something far more beautiful than that simple beginning. It had become a testament to the transformative power of love, to the courage it takes to let someone in, to build a life together against all odds. Isaac and Amelia Knightley had taken a moment of darkness and turned it into a lifetime of light. And that, in the end, was the greatest legacy anyone could leave behind.